Right, fantastic. So we are going to go ahead and get started. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Haitian American Museum of Chicago's program tonight, a Beginner Kreyol Mini-lesson with Mr. Jacques Julmice. October is Kreyol month, and this program is a part of the museum celebration. My name is Carlos Bossard, and I am the executive director of the museum. It's great to see you all, and thank you so much for joining us. HAMOC's mission is to promote Haitian art, culture, and history in metropolitan Chicago and surrounding communities, nationally and internationally, through advocacy, education, and supportive services. Education is at the core of our mission, and we are glad to continue bringing insightful and meaningful lectures and programs to the community. Before I begin, I would like to do some housekeeping and let you all know the format of tonight's event. First, this program is being recorded, and if you do not wish to be seen, feel free to turn off your video cameras now. Auto-generated captioning has been turned on for accessibility, and if you do need the transcript at the end, please reach out and we can make that available to you. Additionally, this is an interactive program, and I would invite you all to unmute yourselves and follow along with the lesson. It would be a great way to practice your Kreyol. And then after the lesson, there will be a short Q&A session with Mr. Julmice, and make sure to ask anything and everything as he is a great resource. Now it is my pleasure to introduce a new friend of the museum and author of the book, Kreyol Meets English. Mr. Jacques Julmice was born in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, and he learned to read and write Kreyol in Boston, Massachusetts. Passionate about languages, especially his mother tongue, he is the inventor of the innovative methodology Kringlish, the easiest way to learn Kreyol, which that enables new learners to pronounce Haitian Kreyol with ease. Everyone, please help me in welcoming Mr. Jacques Julmice.
Good evening, everybody. In Creole, we say bonsoir in the afternoon. I'm gonna present to you Kringlish, my book, Kreyol Meets English, and my method of teaching Kreyol. I am just a little bit about myself. Carlos already mentioned quite a bit, but I was born in Port-au-Prince, and I am passionate about languages. I speak 4 different languages, and I know a few words and at least 20 more. Whenever I meet someone that speaks a language that I don't know, I always ask them how to say at least good morning and thank you. And I have a method of remembering those that I share in the book, so that if you pick up my book and you're learning Kreyol, you also have an easy way of remembering what you learn. Before I get started, by show of hand, can you, is there anybody that do not speak any Kreyol at all? Anyone who does not speak any Kreyol at all? Nicole is one. Anybody else?
Pity.
Okay, Mike, speak very little. Okay, so I'm gonna need, and Jardine, what about you? You speak Kreyol?
I don't speak.
Jardine, you're on mute. I need to know somebody else who speaks Kreyol.
Yes, I do. I speak Kreyol.
So I'm gonna need you to volunteer for me also and translate for Nicole and Mike, who are gonna speak Kreyol immediately. We're not gonna waste time. I mean, we only have 30 minutes. And within the first 5 minutes, I'm gonna get Nicole and Mike to speak Kreyol, just to show you, to demonstrate how the method works. So I'm gonna start the presentation. I'm gonna share. And let me know if you have any issues seeing, and if you can see the whole screen. Sometimes I have certain things on the screen that are blocking my text. Everything is visible, right? Okay, right. So my method is called Kringlish. So it's a combination of Kreyol and English, right? And this is the book. It came out 2 years ago in September 27, 2019. So just celebrated 2-year anniversary. If I'm going too fast, just let me know, raise your hands, or like Carlos said, it's interactive. If you need to chime in, please do not hesitate to do so. Okay, so Kreyol was developed back in the day between 1680 and 1740. It came about as a result of the Atlantic slave trade where the French settlers in Hispaniola, we called it at the time, and the Africans, the enslaved Africans who came to the island, got together and started to communicate. They were mostly communicating in French, but as a result of communicating in French, they mixed some of it with some of the African language that they were speaking at the time. And the vocabulary is primarily French. There are a lot of theories as to the makeup of Creole. By the way, we call it Haitian Kreyol. There are many Creoles around the world, and ours is really Haitian Kreyol, but we mostly refer to it as Creole. The vocabulary is primarily French, but the grammar is basically based on multiple African languages, and mainly those languages are Fon, Igbo, Be, and Kwa, and those are spoken mostly in Benin, Nigeria, Ivory Coast, and Ghana. Before I we're gonna see some Creole is spoken many places, and some of those places are, Creole based, that is based on French. There are some that are based on Portuguese, Criollo, for example. Out in Cape Verde is based on Portuguese, and some people in Brazil also speak some form of Creole. Some are based on Spanish, but the ones that are based in French, the main ones, are spoken in Louisiana, La Dominique, Trinidad, Venezuela, was primarily a Spanish-speaking country, but it's very close to Trinidad, and there's a small community that used to speak French, speak Creole there. There aren't that many people anymore, but there's still a handful. Martinique and Guadeloupe are the ones that are closest to Haitian Creole, and the one in Trinidad was actually spoken as a result of, again, enslaved Africans traveling with their French masters to settle in Trinidad. So the Trinidad Creole is very close to the ones in Guadeloupe, I believe it is. As I mentioned, there are various theories as to makeup of Haitian Creole, but it's a mixture of multiple languages. There's some Spanish in there as well, some Portuguese and English, because we were either occupied or colonized by all these countries. Some people say it's a mixture of 26 different languages. And the reason why we don't speak, and there's a lot of African in it, it's mostly French. And the reason is that when the slaves came to Hispaniola, there was a concerted effort to divide them, so that if you came from the same region and spoke the same language, they didn't want you on the same plantation. They would send you somewhere different, so you could lose sense of your culture, you could lose sense of your language. So therefore, it was very rare for two Africans to have the same background and speak the same language. So they were forced to speak French, which turns out to be Creole. As I mentioned, I speak 4 different languages, and I consider Creole my only native language and official language. And so all the other 3, French, Spanish, and English, I had to learn. So there's a method to teaching a foreign language, and I'm sure you probably know it because you at least have some either French or Spanish or some other language in high school. So the basic method is to learn the alphabet, which is the way people usually start. And then you have to learn a whole bunch of vocabulary words. That could be very painful. And if you're not in school, you're trying to learn by yourself. Whenever people see so many words, new words that they have to learn, they usually give up, right? And then you get into grammar, and then that's when you start having conversation in the new language that you're learning. And then pronunciation is arguably the most difficult aspect of learning a new language for almost everybody. With my method, the way I do it is that you start with pronunciation first. So immediately, as early as tonight, Mike and Nicole are going to be able to pronounce things in English, and Geraldine will understand what they say and will translate for them. Yeah. The second phase is conversation. You can start having conversation. If you if you have somebody who speaks Creole around you, you can go home or take your phone right now and start texting him in Creole without any problem. And then reading Creole is probably the easiest thing anyone can learn on earth. If you know how to read and write in any language, you can read Creole without any problems. All you need is like a handful of sounds that you need to master that we're going to see today, and then you will be able to read Creole. There are a lot of familiar words, a lot of words that you already know that you did not know were Creole. There's what we call cognates in languages. Those are words in basically the same word in multiple languages. There's a lot of connection between English, French, and Spanish, and Italian and Portuguese, and they share the same words. But those words are spelled differently sometimes from one language to another, most of the time from one language to another, and they also pronounce differently, but the meaning is the same. So we take advantage of that by, using those words as much as possible. Vocabulary is something that we don't advocate that you study by heart, because that's where you lose it. That's where you're like, okay, I can't do this anymore. So we try to give you as many words as possible without having to study vocabulary. My book is purchased mostly by Haitian Americans who were born here and did not grow up speaking Creole. Some people are buying it for their kids. And one of my biggest fans is 10 years old. He's the son of my cousin. He loves my book. He had a gathering at his house one day, and everybody was, his little brother was 7 years old, I think, graduation. It was a few months ago during the pandemic. They're having a small gathering there and a lot of people. And he left the party and went and grabbed the book and read the sentence in the block in green. Nicole, can you read that for me?
Kilat mun kapvini.
Jadzine, what did she say?
So should I translate it?
Yep.
Who else is coming?
Okay, so this is a Jadzine just spoke perfect Creole. All the words are in English, but the way I sequence them, it sounds like she's speaking Creole. And here is the Creole. You can see the similarities, right? You can see everything matches up. Ki and lot and mon, cap, vini. Okay, and the pronunciation is almost perfect. The only thing that is different is the way you pronounce cap, right? I think that's even, no, the way you pronounce lot. In English, you're gonna say lot, right? But in Creole, we say lot. That's the only difference. So you actually read English, but you sound like you're speaking Creole. And there are thousands of examples like this. And nobody discovered this until 2 years ago when I was writing a different type of book. And then I stumbled upon a couple of examples, and I started digging and found thousands of examples like this. And we're going to see some more. So this is right at the beginning of the book. I purposely put that there to give people a couple of things about learning a new language as well, is that you need two things primarily. You need to practice and you need confidence. And this is to help with your confidence. Right on page 12 at the beginning of the book, this is a conversation. I'm gonna ask Nicole and Mike if you could help me. You're gonna read the sentences to the left and glance over as you're reading to the right. Jadzine is gonna translate for you. And we're going to see if Jadzine is going to understand everything that you say. The only tip I'm going to give you is that when you see the letter A of the alphabet, pronounce it as A. That's the only thing I need to tell you. But everything else, you just go ahead and read it. So, Nicole, could you unmute yourself and start?
Quote Ashley.
Jadzine, translate for us.
Yeah, where's Ashley?
Li pap vini.
Yeah. Well, in this context, she's not coming.
Okay, Mike, next one.
Not coming.
Cookie. Cookie. Why?
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 Jadine?
Why? Pookie, why?
Jadine, next one.
Parce que li pat
No,
kon-
not Jadine, Nicole, I'm sorry.
Nicole.
So Nicole, you do one line and Mike does the other.
Okay.
Unmute yourself, you're on mute, Nicole.
Pas ki li pat kon sim tap vini.
It's Pasque. You read the letter.
Paske, okay, let me see. Okay, paske li. Is that Lee, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, paski li pat kon sim tap vini.
Because she didn't know that I was coming.
Okay.
My turn.
Yes.
Happy li pat di bos li siap tapini. And she didn't tell her boss she was coming.
Nicole?
Nap vini lot samedi.
She's coming next Saturday.
Atimunyo.
It's Etimunyo.
Etimunyo. How about the kids? I see that.
Nicole?
Timunyo pat suvini.
The kids went up to it. God.
Abigail. How about Abigail?
Nicole?
Lap vini.
She's coming.
Mike?
Kilot moon cap vini.
Who else is coming?
Who else is coming?
Lot mun yo pap vini.
The other people aren't coming.
Abigail ap vini pukal.
Pukal.
Abigail's
coming along.
Siki.
SK. Just
SK.
read.
Okay. This one.
Just read the letters.
Okay. SK Lee Su Woot.
Is she on the way?
Okay.
Oui, li dike li su boot.
Perfect.
Yeah. Yes, she said she's on the way.
Nicole?
Map Fini Poo come to.
Okay. So you guys just spoke Creole, and if you pick up your phone, you call somebody on the phone right now, you read this to them, they can guarantee you they'll understand 90% of what you said. You may have to repeat a couple of times. And so what I do with my students, I've got a class that I'm teaching right now on Saturday mornings. I do 1.5 to 2 hours every Saturday for 6 weeks. And what I do with my students is that after reading this, I break it down for them to show them what's important. So for you right now, if you're completely new to Creole, I would, for example, pick up a couple of things, right? SK is very important. Almost every question in Creole begins with SK. So remember that, okay? And the other one is Mabvini. Mabvini is I'm coming, okay? See it at the bottom, Mabvini is I'm coming. So you can actually text somebody Mabvini and let them know that you're coming. So you can go through this and figure out what you want to remember from this, and this is your beginning to start to speak in Creole, right? Actually, Carlos, I should have asked you to volunteer too, huh? So this is where Wabi picked up the sentence, Kilot Mon Kap Vini. So you went through and went through the book and got that and knew what it meant, so he translated it for his parents, asking him who else is coming. So when I work with my students, we go very quickly. They start with this conversation, and then I want them to be able to read Creole by week 2 or week 3. And I'm going to show you how I do that. Okay. Grammar and conjugation, week 3 or week 4. Again, I say earlier that reading Creole is probably the easiest thing on earth. The second easiest thing is conjugation in Creole. And again, we start conjugation with exclusively words, English words. Every English word, I mean, a lot of English words put together to conjugate verbs in Creole in terms of presentation. So you're building confidence as far as learning the language, and hopefully that's getting you interested in wanting to find out more. We learn to ask and answer questions immediately, because that's how you engage in conversation, by going to somebody and asking them some questions, and work on your listening skills so that you can hear what they say. And then practice, right? If you have somebody who speaks Creole, engage in conversation with them, practice with them. So we read Kreyglish. That's that. And if you're studying on your own now, use the Kreyglish as much as possible, right? And when you feel comfortable to transition over to Creole, which is not going to take a long time, then you do that. You take a full paragraph and you read it in Creole to improve your pronunciation. Creole, the reason why Creole is so easy, in my view, Creole is so easy to learn, is because the sounds, there's a one-to-one relationship between each letter and a sound. In English, for example, we have the long vowel and the short vowels. In Creole, we don't have that. Once you learn a sound, it remains with you forever. So if you can remember a couple of the sounds that we're going to learn in a few minutes, then you're going to be able to read one of the slides one or two of the slides, you're going to be able to read them. And Carlos, you're going to participate this time. And anybody else who don't have any experience speaking Creole, please raise your hand, because you're going to have the opportunity to speak some Creole. And no matter how long it takes for you to use the Kreyglish examples so you can get up to speed, please do that. But some people may feel comfortable switching to reading Creole very, very quickly. And when you're speaking to somebody, when you're practicing, have a notebook. I use my phone a lot in terms of taking notes. Either I speak to it and record my voice, or there's a notes pad in my phone that I write some notes quite often. So do that, or have a notepad. Lenise, you have a question. Lenise, do you have a question?
Oh no, I was just raising my hands to say that I don't know Creole. I'm sorry.
Oh, you don't know Creole. Marley?
Yep, Marley. Same for me. I know this is my first time practicing, cool.
All right. Thanks for joining us. Okay. So when you speak to people, right, you're gonna be able to pick up more now, because once you start reading it, you're gonna recognize a few words, right? And when you do, make a note of those, right? And use them as often as possible and as much as possible. If you don't use it, you're gonna lose it. And be confident. What you just read sounded perfect. Be confident that your pronunciation is correct, right? Because sometimes we are kind of shy. We don't think we're saying things properly. People are gonna laugh at us. But when Mike and Nicole read what they read earlier, you couldn't tell that they weren't Haitians. It sounded, and I'm not pulling your leg, and Jardine can attest to that. It sounded like a Haitian speaking, okay? The grammar in Creole is not that much different from English. The sentence structure is the same, except for some minor differences that we may see later, okay? A good way to practice, especially with kids, is to talk to send some command, like go, like sleep, like wait, eat. Those are, I'm pretty sure most people here know how to say eat or know how to say food. That's actually a sentence. Manger is eat. So the manger is both a verb and a noun. So you can eat it, you can use it to do a command to tell somebody go eat, you just say eat. There are some sentences in Creole that don't have a verb, and it's mostly the verb to be that is not used in Creole in a lot of cases, and that's perfectly correct. There's no problem with that. And the major difference between the way the sentence is structured is that the Creole articles and articles are placed after the noun as opposed to before the noun, but everything else is almost the same. Creole is gender neutral, okay? For the most part, there are no feminine or masculine. They're just a handful because of our connection with French. There are some words that we pronounce like the French do in the feminine. But for the most part, we don't do gender, we don't do plural. It's the article that lets you know that you are plural, whether you are plural or not. Okay. Lenise, I'm gonna ask you to read, Lenise and Marlise, read these big blocks for me. Lenise, will you start?
Sure. Lee Salty.
You just say she went out. Marlise? Marlise? You on mute?
Yes.
Read the big blocks in burgundy. No, in red. That's burgundy, right?
The burgundy. El
Yeah.
Avenue. El
No.
Avenue.
No, connected. Like a
Lee.
no. It's you're
Oh,
reading
L'Avenue.
exactly. You're reading English, right?
Okay.
Just you're reading English, but it sounds like you say something in Creole, right?
L'Avenue.
And you say he is coming. Okay. Lenise?
Map Denitu.
Yep, you just say I'm also coming. Marlise?
Cotimuño.
You just say, where are the kids? Denise?
Yo Pap Veni.
Yo pap vini. See, you say yo pap, but in Creole we say yo pap vini. This is slightly different. And you know, I'm here to make the adjustment. If you're reading the book, I'm gonna mention that also, that you need to adjust the way you sound here a little bit. But the other ones were perfect. So it's your pap. The A sound, the A always sounds like in Creole, like déjà vu. Déjà vu is borrowed from French, and the way you pronounce in déjà is the way you always pronounce A in Creole. And you say vene, but in Creole we say vini. Okay. Next one.
Puki.
You say why.
Yo Padi.
Yo padim. Yo padim. Again, the A, you make an effort and pronounce it and you're all set. Yo padim. And the dim, you put the way you pronounce D is also a little bit different. We say Z. The tongue comes out of your mouth, or touches your teeth when you pronounce D followed by I. Yo padim. So that's a bit different, but something that we can work on later, right? Next one.
Yodi.
Yodi. Again, you say Yodi, but we say Yodi. Okay.
Yodi.
So exactly. That's a bit different, but you get it. And next one.
Red.
No, just read the letters.
PPTP.
And then
Red.
say it again.
PPTP red.
Okay. So this is one of the most, Jardine is laughing because this is probably the most common proverb in Creole. The most common say in Creole. So if you go to Haiti and you say that to somebody, you can fool them and tell them you're a native, you've been living in Haiti forever, and they'll believe you. So this is not something that anybody who's going to learn Creole is going to learn in the first few days or the first few weeks. It's going to take you months to get there, but you're already pronouncing it almost perfectly. The only difference is the R followed by E is probably the most difficult sound to have in Creole. So it's instead of red, it's a red. It's red. We always open our mouth wide in Creole, so it's red. PPTP red, and it says this. It means the smaller we are, the more resilient we are. And we say that about everything in Haiti. We say that about our kids. We say that about the country. You name it, we say this thing. So just to give you an idea of the similarities, again, this is the Creole up top, and this is the English, right? Or the Kreglish, not the English. L'Isoti, Labvini. The difference in the second block is that there's a space after the L. Same thing, there's a space after the M up top. It's Mabvini 2. And 2 and 2 also, when you say also in Creole, that's probably another word that you want to remember. When you say also in Creole, it's also 2. 2 and 2 means the same thing. The spelling in Creole is T-O-U. Kotimunyo, this is the way we spell coat in Creole, coat. We say if you grow up in a Haitian household, you either is gonna hear coat, or you're gonna hear cote, or you're gonna hear kikote. We say all three. So to make it easier for you, I use the coat that I'm sure you're wearing in Chicago right now, but it's pretty cool. It's pretty cold there, right? Next one, your pavini. Again, the spelling, there's a space after the first P in this one. Puki, that's the way you spell it in Creole, but it sounds pretty much similar to the way I write it in Kreglish. Your padim, exactly. Again, there's some spaces there, but it's the same pronunciation. There is the Yodi and PPTP red. You just follow the letters with a whole bunch of I's, and you have the Creole. And the eh sound is one that you remember. The eh sound is one that you remember, that you want to remember. The E with the little funny accent on it is pronounced eh. That's very important. Any questions from anyone? Stan, I don't know if you joined us from the start. Do you have any questions?
No.
Okay. You're following
This
along?
is Mark.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Okay. Yes.
I had one question. This is Marlise. For when there are spaces for map and lap, are there apostrophes normally or no?
So Creole is ever evolving, and there is a standard now. The latest standard is that a long time ago we used to use apostrophe. Then we used dashes sometimes, but now we only leave a space. You don't need to put anything there. So whenever you see a space, you don't pronounce the letter as the letter. You connect it either with the letter the word that follows or the word that precedes it. So it's always connected to it, just the way we just did map. We put it together with the word that follows. In dim, we say dim, we connect with the D that precedes it. So you don't need a space, you don't need a dash, just a space. I mean, you don't need an apostrophe, you don't need a dash, just a space. And I don't know if I mentioned that earlier. One of my goals with my students is that if you take classes with me or you read my book, there's another guarantee that you're gonna be able to write and spell Creole better than your parents. We grew up in Haiti, we studied in French. Most people who grew up in Haiti studied in French, and we didn't know how to read and write Creole. I learned it in Boston, Massachusetts, about 20 years ago. And unfortunately, the rest of us don't want to learn to write it. So everybody write it whichever way they want. And in my book, I teach the proper way to write it. And this is the proper way. This is something that you can go on and speak and teach somebody who is a native speaker. They may teach you how to read, how to speak, but you'll be able to teach them how to write it properly. There's a gentleman who bought my book. His mom did a social media post saying that he's teaching her how to write Creole properly because she grew up in Haiti, and I was so happy about that. When you, as I mentioned earlier in the first couple of slides, when you're studying a new language, probably the first thing that they do with you is the alphabet. And a lot of people do that with Creole, but in my opinion, I don't think it's important. So I don't spend a lot of time with the alphabet, even if you take a 6-week class with me. That's probably the amount of time that I'm going to spend on it. So what I'm going to tell you about the alphabet is that it's not that much different from English. Everything that you see that's not highlighted is the same. When you say the alphabet, you're going to say A, B, C, D. It's going to sound different. But when you put it together in a word, it behaves the same as English. So you don't need to learn the alphabet. The only thing that you need to know, the items in green are the most important things for you. 2, 4, 6, 7. These are the 7 key sounds that you need to be able to start reading Creole. And I'm gonna go through them and tell you how to pronounce them. And then next couple of slides, I'm gonna ask you to read some Creole words for me, and you should have no problem doing that. So the first one is A, but we pronounce it A. Always, it never changes. It's always pronounced A. E is always pronounced A. E is always pronounced A. And Marlise, for you, you're gonna see a lot of people write the A with another accent on it. We don't do that in Creole. We used to do that a long time ago. Again, that's eliminated. We don't put the accent aigu on the E. We're gonna see it in a couple of slides. So it's always written without an accent on it, except for the E that we saw in red, but it's always pronounced A. I is always pronounced E. O is always pronounced O. And the E with the accent going from left to right, top to bottom, is E, as in let, right? And O with the accent is always pronounced O. And OU is always pronounced U, double O, okay? Once you know that, you can begin reading Creole, yeah? So those are the key takeaways from this slide. You want to learn, you want to be able to pronounce those. A volunteer, please, can you see if you can remember how to pronounce those letters to the right and to the left? Who's going to volunteer for me?
I can try, Marlise. A is A.
Mm-hmm.
E is E.
Mm-hmm.
O is O.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I is it E like French? Is it E?
Yes, yes.
Mhm.
A-E-O.
A-E, that's right. Mm-hmm. And to the right?
Someone else can try the right if you want to try the right.
E-O-U.
E-O-U, that's right. E-O-U.
E-O-U.
So we have A-E-O and E-O-U. So that's all you need to be able to write the remaining slides that are written in Creole a little in a few minutes. The ones that are highlighted in red, Q and X, do not exist in Creole. Okay? One of the most popular letter in Creole is the letter K. Every time you hear the sound k, 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 as in car, it's always spelled with a K. So Q, we have no use for Q in Creole, so we get rid of it. X is a little more complex. We write X a little differently, and we don't use it either. You're gonna hear a lot of people tell you that R doesn't exist in Creole. That's not true. R does exist in Creole. So we keep that. It's only Q and X that we get rid of. Creole is very efficient. Whatever we don't use, we throw it away. Okay, so Linese or somebody else who doesn't know Creole and want to speak up, can you try and repeat how those vowels are pronounced for me?
Okay, okay. This Lenny's here. Okay. A, E, E.
E.
Yeah.
Okay. As in obey, but you don't pronounce the Y. A. Okay?
A. Okay.
What about this one?
E.
That's correct.
O.
Correct.
O. O.
No, that's O.
O. Okay. O.
Like other. Okay?
Okay.
Very similar to other. What about this one?
O. Ooh.
Mhm. Yeah, this is oo. This is
Ooh.
yeah, and a tip to remember there is two is two. T-O-U means T-O-O. Two is two, right?
Okay.
So this is the symbol for it. A, E, double E, A, as you know, B, but the Y is silent. E,
E. O. O.
O,
O.
and
Ooh.
U. Okay, so this is the one that we were talking about earlier. This E with this little accent on it, it's used quite a bit in French. We don't use it in Creole. We get rid of it. Instead, we use the one next to it, always. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, so the vowel A is also a word, okay? There are 5 different ways of translating the singular. Like you see the car, A is one of them, okay? I need a volunteer. Can you try and read this word for me? No, wait, hold on. Earlier I mentioned that there are a lot of familiar words. This is what we call false friends. If you're looking at this, they're all English. There's nothing here that's not English, but they also Creole, and they're called false friends because they don't mean the same thing that they mean in Creole as in English. So every one of these words on the screen is a Creole word. And I need a volunteer to read them because you know how to pronounce the vowels now. The consonants don't matter. They sound the same as they do in English. So if you know the vowels, then you can read these words. A volunteer, please. Stan, you want to give it a try?
Sure. A,
Mm-hmm.
al,
Yes.
ale,
Yep.
parler,
Yep.
quitter,
Mm-hmm.
gâter,
Mm-hmm.
pop,
Yep.
piquer,
Mm-hmm.
gâter,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm looking, my screen, something happened. Sorry, let me get it back. Now I can't see it.
Yeah, I think that's enough, Stan. Are you sure you don't know Creole?
No, I'm using my phone, and sometimes the bottom of the screen disappears. No, I know a little French, but and a little Arabic, but not too much Creole. Sorry.
Right. So you're using your phone and you picked up everything that from the previous slide. That's amazing. Yeah. So Stan pronounced everything the way it should be pronounced. I have nothing to tell him. It sounded perfect. And these are not any words that you don't need. These are words that you can start using right now. So there's a lot of abbreviation in Creole. We do that a lot. We shorten the words. That's just like you saw earlier, côte and côté means where. Same thing here in Creole. Sometimes we say al, sometimes we say aller. They both mean to go. And in my book, I also have a way for you to remember that aller means to go. We don't have enough time for me to go over this today, but I use a system called mnemonics to help people memorize, not memorize, but remember what they are learning without having to make too much effort to memorize. So parler is to speak. So something that you can say right now, moi parler Kreyol means I speak Creole. Moi parler Kreyol. Gâter is spoil, rotten. Quitter is to leave or let. Piquer is spicy. When you're eating Haitian food, you're about to encounter some spicy food. So manger piqué is spicy food. Pap is want. We saw mabvini earlier. If you put pap in between the two, you're gonna have moi pap vini, which is I won't come. Pat is didn't, same thing. And tap is would. So very useful words that you can pick up right away and start using based on what you learned so far. The couple of verbs that we saw sauter, which is to go. We saw vini, which is to come. And we saw di, which is to say or to tell. So you can experiment with those words by using those I guess you would call them auxiliary in Creole, but in English, but in Creole we call them the ones at the bottom. We call them tense helper words. We don't use the concept of auxiliary. Again, Linese, or another volunteer, can you read those for me?
I can try.
Okay.
Pa, u, te, sa, oui, la, vini, fini, soti, fe, domi.
Wow, perfect, right? I mean, there's nothing to tell you. And so again, you can take these words and piece them together with the verbs that we saw earlier, and then you're making up complete sentences now. For example, te is the past tense, and u is you. And the way I tell people to remember u is that it means you singular, but it's you without the y. So that's the system that I use to help you to remember it. So u means you singular, and the way to remember it's the u, you without the y. So you can just put u te di or u te vini or u te soti. We saw those verbs earlier. Di is to say, u te di is you said, u te vini is you came, u te soti is you went out or you left, right? So you can start piecing, putting these words together with the ones that we saw earlier, or I guess those are here too. And vini and fini, they kind of look similar. So I always put them together. And fe is to do, dormi is to sleep. So you have a whole bunch of another thing about language is that the more verbs you know, the more you're gonna be able to have conversation. So it's always good to have a few verbs under your belt. So what I do with my class so we can practice every Saturday is that we do roll call, right? And so when I call on somebody, in Linese, if I call on you, and well, let me do this because I don't want to run out of time. So Lila she's here, and I'm sure you're going to be able to read that. Yola, they are here. Lipala, Yopala, Li parle Kreyol. You already know Kreyol. Li is he or she or it. Parle, you know how to read that. You can read everything here. So in the first couple of slides, we were reading Kreyglish, which was English words, but now you're already reading Kreyol, just because you know how to pronounce the vowels, right? Those 7 sounds. There are a few more. There are like 5 or 6 more that we won't cover today. But once you have those 12 under your belt, you should be able to read Kreyol, okay? Li pa parle Kreyol, he doesn't speak Kreyol. Ou pa parle Kreyol, you don't speak Kreyol, okay? How much time do we have left? You can see my clock.
About 5 more minutes or so, and definitely if anyone has any questions, we can always tack those on at the end, but no rush. This is really great. This is really great. Okay,
I think we are to the end. So in closing, I would say that we learn one noun during the course of this pronunciation. It's timun. We use this term that says kotimunyo. So timun means kids. Mun by itself means people or person. Okay, so that's one thing that you can remember. And full moon, when you hear full moon, you look up in the sky. And the way you remember that it means something in Creole, it means a crowd in Creole. And the only difference is that the U is going to spell O-U instead of O-O. Full moon is a crowd, moon is people, and T-moon is kids. So this is how you're going to build your vocabulary by, making notes as you go along about these words that you're helping, and we saw several pronouns, which is a good beginning, because we saw the first person singular, we saw the second person singular, and we also saw the third person singular, which is it, and we saw they, which is yo, right? And so we covered so much in 20-25 minutes, and a lot of people speak Creole, and this is the book. And I went way back. So I wanted to leave some time for questions. So this is the book. This is my website. The website is just my name, JacquesJulmice.com. You can order it directly on my website or on Amazon. And I also, if you go there, you're gonna see I sell these T-shirts. A lot of people, when you go to Haiti, this is how they greet you, right? People will say bonjour, which is good morning, or bonsoir, which is good evening. But back in the day, we used to use this, which is honneur, respect. What it means honor, respect. So something that I completely forgot about for 20 years, and then it popped up, and I just created this logo, put it on my T-shirt, and that's all I wear right now, because I want to have the opportunity when I meet somebody who's not Haitian to be able to tell them a little bit about my language and my culture. So honneur, respect is one way to greet people in Creole. Okay, any questions for me?
I asked a question about how to take your class, and is that information on your website?
Yes, it is on my website. Let me share the link in the chat. It's on my website. You can register on Eventbrite, and we have 2 sessions remaining, 2 Saturdays, this Saturday and next Saturday, and I am eventually going to have another 6, another round coming up soon. I don't know exactly when it's going to be, but if you follow me on Instagram or Facebook, that's where I post the announcement for my classes. But I'll put the link in the chat here for you to be able to register.
I have a question, Jacques.
Sure.
So I've been studying Creole for a little while. I'm not very good, but I'm very interested. I have a Haitian painting behind me here, and I've been there, and we work with Haitians quite a bit with some charity work. What I would like to know is some Haitian children's songs, because it's easy to remember a song. It's hard to remember vocabulary. If I knew some children's songs, even baby songs, then I would learn some phrases and some vocabulary and some rhythm and some pronunciation. Can you recommend anywhere that we could get little songs that we could learn? It's just, I think it's a good way to learn a language.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sorry. Definitely. And I know there is a couple who write Creole books, and they have songs that go along with they write them for children. And they have songs that go along with the content of the book. So I can't remember the name, their website, and the information, but I'll get that for you. That's definitely available. I'll get that for you, Mike.
That would be good. Yeah.
If you either leave your email address, register on my website at JacquesJulmice.com. I'll have your email address, and I'll send you an email, a link to their page, so you can get access to their songs, their books. I don't know how they distribute the songs, but that definitely exists.
Okay, good.
Any other questions?
This is good.
You said that your website is your name on Facebook and Instagram?
Yeah, so my website is JacquesJulmice.com, one word, and my Instagram is Jacques.Julmice, right? On demand. It's Jacques.Julmice. I'm gonna put everything here. So this is where you register for the Kreyol class. I call it class Kreyol. Again, the words are very similar. This is my website. Facebook, look for Author Julmice, or you can use my name. And Instagram is Jacques.Julmice.
And I'll make sure to, I send out a follow-up email, so I'll make sure to get all this information, get everyone connected as best as they can, definitely.
Okay. And let me send a link to the product page. I just started making those cups because we used to use those way back when a long time ago. And so it's a great gift for parents. For example, if you have your parents, Jadine, you're laughing to go to
Yeah, that reminds me of cafe.
Yeah, NML cups. That's what we use to drink coffee in Haiti. So great. Your parents will be grateful if you buy these for them. They'll be surprised and grateful. So there's a deal if you buy, certain things, you get free shipping or you get a free t-shirt. So look around and email me if you have any questions, or look forward to receiving your order.
Well, we are coming up at 7:30 right now. I just want to thank you, Jacques, for this fantastic mini lesson. And I'm going to plant the seed right now in front of everyone that hopefully we can invite you back for some full Kreyol lessons at the museum. I think that would be a fabulous opportunity. We have, people in this room who are very interested, and I am really just kind of blown away at the amount of information that I've been able to kind of take in the last hour. So thank you so much for sharing your talents and really your contributions to the Haitian community and Haitian diaspora. It was an absolutely beautiful lesson, and for everyone who was able to engage with us today, thank you so much for being here and participating in the program itself. Before we go, I just want to give just a few updates from the museum. Number one, like I did mention, I will be sending a follow-up email to everyone so everyone can stay connected with Jacques and get all of his information and stay connected with the museum. Additionally, as we come up at the end of October, November, we do have 2 programs I would like to invite everyone to. The first is going to be a roundtable discussion about the border crisis, and that's going to be with actually the Consul General of Haiti in Chicago. And additionally, we will be having another panel discussion on Haitian genealogy. Both of those will be happening in November, so make sure to stay up to date with everything HAMOC, and you'll be able to get those registration details here soon. And then lastly, as we wrap up the year, HAMOC's annual Gala fundraiser will be held virtually again this year, happening on Friday, December 3rd at 7 p.m. We will have guest appearances by premier Caribbean artist Chantel Bethel. And then also we'll be having an appearance by Grammy-nominated band Bookman Experience. So we're extremely excited to have those fantastic guests here at our gala. And again, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, our website, and you can also subscribe to our newsletter to make sure you stay up to date with everything happening at the museum. But again, thank you, Jacques. Thank you, everyone, for being here this evening. I hope you all have a wonderful evening, and I do look forward to seeing you all at another HAMOC program in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you
again, everyone.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a good evening, and let me know if there's anything I can do in the future to help out.
100%, Jacques. You are fantastic. We love you here. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
And Jadine, thank you for
Merci,
helping.
Jacques.
Thank you for helping me out with the translation. Really appreciate it.
Pas de problème. Moi, c'est ici. Moi, c'est
Ah bon?
l'Université Chicago.
Oh, c'est l'Université de Chicago?
Oui, moi, c'est créole. Fait commencer un programme pour eux.
Oh, fè comme ça, mais faut m'a recommandé au livre moi pour programme.
Faut nous parler.
Eh bien, ok, pas de problème, d'accord.
Ok.
All right.
Bonne nuit.
All right, pareil, bye bye.
Merci,
Bye-bye.
bye.